Hi guys, welcome. Glad to be here. And this will be the session about migration from the Workflows 2010, so the Sharepoint Classic workflows. And basically, I will try to make this as a compendium of the knowledge, what you should know, what you should consider. The next slide, maybe the surprise, but this is a moment for our sponsors. So Bonner, Microsoft, European Collaboration Summit, and 365 Saturdays. I will leave that for a second. You can take screenshots. And next, this is very nice. You can win the prizes in the raffle, in the lottery. It is just you need to log into the virtual cafeteria, or how it was named. Yeah, virtual bar. You need to talk with the sponsors. You need to register, and then you need to have a little bit of the luck. For the second prize, this is the all access pass for the Collab 365 Global Con 4. You can see my session there. You will have the chance to see a couple of my sessions there. So I encourage you to check overall the Collab 365 because they are doing the online sessions and events. Quite often there is that's free and you just need to register. Okay, so moving forward, the agenda of this session, as I accept the fact that maybe you can see my face for the first time, I will use this chance to speak a couple of words about myself. Then I will tell you why I decided to do this session about the Workflows 2010. And this is mostly connected with the announcement which was made, I think, around June this year or so. And then we will move through what is connected and what is the impact of that announcement. I will show you how to scan your environment, and I will tell you why to do it. Next, I will go through the migration considerations, so what you should consider while migrating. And you will understand shortly why I put that in the quotation mark. Then we'll jump into the Power Automate. So even if you are not interested in the Workflows 2010 and the remigration, I think I will give you some good insights about the Power Automate. Of course, it will be in the context of the Workflows 2010, but it will be valid overall for the whole Power Automate. So you don't need to jump to the other track. This is the best one. And of course, there will be a short summary where I will try to put everything in the correct order. Okay, so a couple words about myself. I guess the most recent achievement is to passing the Power Platform App Maker. So officially, I can do the apps. Except that I'm really passionate about the Power Platform and trying to be active in the social media. So if you want, please follow me. I'm trying to share useful tips and some articles how to work with the Power Platform overall, but especially the Automate and the Power Apps. But I'm working in the IT for almost 11 years, though I didn't finish the IT studies. I finished the management studies. So if you want, you can do it, just do it. You can work in the IT. It is just a matter only of wanting to go. But historically speaking, I was working a lot with the SharePoint, and my journey with the business automation started with the Workflows 2010. So this topic overall is really close to my heart and where my beginning with the Microsoft platform were set. Okay, enough chit chat and enough about me. Yeah, so the key reason and the main why is that the SharePoint Workflows 2010 will retire. So basically, from the November 1st of this year, the workflows will not be able to be created and they will not run. So this is for some organizations something really, really big. So if you have the Workflows 2010 in your organization, and you are in cloud, you are using the Microsoft 365, this can potentially affect you. But let's maybe move for a second to this announcement, as there is a lot of content in it, and I don't want to rush that part. So this is the announcement. Maybe I will use this chance to just paste that in the chat so you guys have it. Can I do it quickly? Yes, I can. There you go. And going back to this announcement, let's find it. First of all, we have the timeline. It is past August 1st, so we don't care about that anymore. The 1st of November, workflows won't be created anymore and they will stop to work. So this is like if you have the running workflow, it will stop to work. And that can affect your configurations also for the other type of the workflows 2013, because you had the option to run the workflow 2010 inside of the 2013. So this is worth to check. But going through these points, the background of that, so Microsoft is explaining that the classic workflows are the workflows 2010 and the 2013. And this is basically a sequence of the actions which are relevant or connected with a business process. You can associate the workflow with the document or the item, but the key point of this definition for me is the sequence of the action which produce some kind of the outcome. And then if we'll go and we'll scroll a little bit lower, we'll see the impact to the customers. But for me, it is not exactly the full description of the whole problem, because here you have the list of the built-in workflows, but this is not the whole list in some sense. If you were working with the workflows, you were customizing them, and any type of that workflows will start to work. Next, we have the information also about the SharePoint 2013. And here, if you will start to read between the lines, I think in this announcement, there is the hidden information that the Workflows 2013 shortly will share the same fate as the Workflows 2010. So as soon as you will need to start the work, please consider and add a correct amount of the time to think about the SharePoint 2013 workflows. So shortly, new tenants won't have the option. The workflow will be disabled by default. You will get from the Microsoft a special script to enable that. So shortly, I think the SharePoint 2013 workflows will be also on the list to go away. And from this announcement, I would also stick here for a second, because the tool to create the workflows, it was the SharePoint Designer. And I think many of you guys could work with that tool. And some of you maybe will be forced to do it, and this will be the first time when you will see that. And in this session, I will show that to you. But the very important bit is that shortly, you will have the option only to work with the XML definition of the workflow. So the sooner you will start to act, the easier it may be, because the SharePoint Designer allows you to, let's say, interact with the UI of the workflow. So you don't need to read the redefinition. One more thing worth to check and remember is that SharePoint Designer will be, let's say, supported but no longer developed till the 2026. So the timer is, and the time is ticking also for the SharePoint Designer. And this is reference directly to the SharePoint server. So if you are in the SharePoint server 2016, 2013, I hope not, in 2019, you can still use the designer, but only till the 2026. It is worth to remember about that. Okay, before moving forward, I'm really tempted to show you how the SharePoint Designer looks like. So this is really a good journey for me also, that the SharePoint Designer is quite old, and it was refreshed from the version 2010. So even when I change the resolution, it is still not showing so well on my screen. So I will just go to the section of the workflows. And this is really important bit. Although SharePoint Designer allows you to work with the workflows, there are other, let's say, features of this tool for which it was used. So a lot of people who are working with the master pages definitely know also the SharePoint Designer. Okay, let's maybe go here. I captured the screen, so it is a little bit bigger, and I hope it will be easier for you guys to see what is happening here. We have the section of the workflows, and the first part worth to notice are the list workflows. So all of the automations which are connected with the specific site to which I log in, because right now I am on a site level. So when you are connecting, when you are using the SharePoint Designer, you are working with a site level. So of course you can go to the root of the site collection, or you are going to the subsites, and you need to go, in the hierarchy. And in every place, most likely you will see a couple of these global reusable workflows because they are out of the box ones. So shortly, I think they will vanish from this list. But if you'll see this three first, approval, collect feedback, and collect signatures, they are the built-in workflows. So you don't need to worry about them. But if you see the list workflows, then this is the signal that potentially you will have some work to do. Nevertheless, if I would try to go through this whole list and check side by side, and the organization is most likely quite big, I would waste a ton of the time and maybe don't even finish on the 1st of November. So there is a better way. There is, in most cases, there is always a better way. And I will show you that in a couple of seconds. But before moving forward, I would like to just point out to you guys that here, there are the, in some sense, types of the workflows. So if this is first time and you see that, the list workflows are associated with the library or the list. So they are working on the document and the item level as per the definition. Then we have the site workflows, which are working on a site level, and they are not, let's say, directly connected with any list or the library. The reusable workflows are connected with the content type. I know that this is a big simplification, but just to put the things in order. Excuse me. Okay, so we have these three types, and one more bit before moving forward. If I will open for a couple of seconds the workflow definition and take another screen capture, we have the start options, and this is quite important because the workflows were acting in the three types: when the items was created, or when item was modified, and lastly, you could trigger the process manually. And with that, we know that there are the three types of the classic workflows and three ways how we can trigger, how we can start that processes. Okay, let's pause that one and let's go back to the explanation of how I can really get the correct information, how many workflows, or if I have the workflows in my environment. To do that, go here in this part and scroll to find the section about the Sharepoint Modernization Scanner tool. This will open you the page and you will find here the download link. Just for the sake of my mind, I will drop that in the chat. Okay, I already did that. And the first bit, which I would recommend for you guys to do, is when you will download the executable file, just put that in a separate folder, because it will just drop all of the results of the reports in the folder where it was downloaded. So it can be a little bit messy. So just save that to a separate folder. Now let's execute that. And here you can see the version. Please always check for the most recent version because that tool is constantly updated by the community. And if you are starting the work in the production, then the recommended way to authenticate is to set up the proper app, register the app, and assign the proper permission for the application. But as I'm using the dev tenant, and this is the demonstration, I will be lazy and use the option to use the username and the password. Yeah, and password. Recently, I started to use the password bank, and I think that was one of my best decisions ever. Yeah. Yay, and the password. Okay. Let's see if that works, maybe. Okay, so the next thing worth to check is that you have the three options. Either you are scanning the whole tenant, but if your production environment is quite big, I wouldn't go in this way. I would use the third option. So to prepare the CSV file and to split your production site collection into a couple of the batches. So you can then work with the first batch and wait for the finish of the next batch. Unless you know that there is a specific site collection which you want to check, then you can use the second option. But I can go with the first one. Next, I need to select the option of the scan, select the mode, and I'm using here the classic workflow usage and with the details. Okay, I'm not changing the rest of the options. And now this process will start to run. As this is the dev tenant, I think there is like 30-ish, 40 site collections. Oh, most likely I provided the incorrect password. Demo gods, thank you. Okay, guys, I show you how to do it. Maybe I will give it one more try, but only one more. And then I will show you the results. Fortunately, I ran that earlier, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and here that should be good. And now? No. Okay. It don't want to cooperate, but that is not a biggie. I have also the screenshot of how it is executed. Anyway, we would waste over a minute. Don't waste the time. The result of the scan will look like this, but to be honest, I'm interested only in the two files. The first one, really nice dashboard, which can be used by the senior management for the high-level overview of the situation in the tenant. Of course, this is like a default configuration, and you can apply some kind of the magical changes in the layout to make it even more beautiful. But here you can see all of the details and various information about your tenant. And even if you think that there is no point in trying that, but you are the client or you are working with the Microsoft 365, I would recommend to do at least the scan, because you may be surprised that somebody already created the workflows because they wanted to simplify their work. So doing the scan, I would recommend that for everyone. Okay, so we have the version for the managers, but we have also the CSV version with a lot of other useful information. And in this file, if I will make it bigger, okay, in this file, you can see when there was the last modification of the process. So this is quite shame that there is no information about when it was last time executed, but you can at least see if somebody recently modified the process. The next bit, you can see the admin and the owner. So these are your people with which you want to check if they are still using the process, and especially why they are using that process. The action count is also useful information because you will know if the process is big or not. Most likely, like in my case, if this is actions, this is some kind of the demo workflow. Here is the list or attempt to list the actions from the workflow. And the last part, which you should remember, is for sure the subscription ID. Okay, so right now you are potentially in the situation that you did the scan. You did the scan and you know that you have the work or not. And what next? Of course, we need to check a couple of the bits, and let's go back to the presentation. Yeah, just to be sure, before moving forward, only the cloud customers are impacted. So if you are preparing for the migration, if you are in the middle of the migration, if you are using the cloud, then the Workflows 2010 will stop to work. If you are on premise, you are safe, but please remember that you are safe till the 2026. So it is good to check your servers anyway. Where to start? I show you that there is the modernization scanner and the Sharepoint designer. So these tools are in some sense connected, because when I will finish the scan, so if I have the results, here you can see the screenshot of how the solution is executed. The next information which I want to know when I will get the list of all of the workflows is if they are used or not. And I don't know really good method to do that except checking the workflow history list. So if I will go to the details of any type of the process, I will see here the workflow history list. And if I will go to open the workflow history list, I will get the link to that list, because this is the hidden list. And I just need to copy that and go, come on here. Yeah, so workflow history list is associated with your site, with the site collection, and you will see here all of the executions, all of the logs which are made during the execution of the workflows. And if you will see that list is empty and the date of the modification was quite old, then potentially it means that for the last half a year, nobody executed a process in this particular site collection. It is like that because the information in the workflow history list are stored for the last half a year. So that can mean that although there is quite a lot of workflows associated with a specific site collection or the site, you won't have the work because there is no execution. So potentially this is some kind of the outdated process, and you can just forget it, archive it, whatever. There will be no extra work for you. Now, again, checking that one by one, that won't make a lot of sense. So you can export the information from the workflow history list. Bear with me. Yeah, we have the export to Excel option. We can save that, and we can connect that with the CSV information by using the subscription ID. So that is the identifier of your workflows. And if you will connect that data in the Excel, you can then start to, get a better picture of what is the situation in your tenant. So that is why it is useful to combine the Sharepoint modernization tool with the Sharepoint designer. And of course, you will see the whole definition of the workflows. Maybe I'll display the other one. Yeah, maybe this one, for instance. If you will go to edit the workflow, you will see the definition, you will see the actions inside of the specific process. Yeah, so we did the scan, and I really highly recommend for everyone who are using the cloud to do at least the scan to know what is happening. And remember, if somebody created the Workflow 2010 or 2013, it is really good, and that should be recognized, and we should speak with that people because they are potentially the citizen developers. So if we will show them the Power Automate, Power Apps, or Power BI, they can take that things which they with which they had challenges in their life, and they can resolve that by themselves. So IT don't need to be involved in some elements of the user's life, and the user can help him or his team quite easily. And having citizen developers in the company is really a good thing. Going back to the topic, if we know that we have the work to do, then we should start with the communication, because this is the key aspect. And the first bit really is the communication. We should start to look for the people who will support us, who will be the owner of the project, and launch the project as soon as possible, because we need to make our business. What will happen if they will not act? Most likely they will be like, what are the workflows? We don't know anything about that. So first bit is the communication. The next bit is the communication, because even if you will start the work and you will communicate at the very beginning, you cannot go dead silent when you are doing the whole process of the migration. I know a lot of people are struggling with that, and the stress level is rising if we are not communicating. So please remember about the communication. The next bit is that we need to go to the owners and the people who are using the processes and ask them question if the process is still required, because we are right now working with potentially a really huge list of the information, and we need to make it a little bit smaller. Next, the priorities. Of course, some of the workflows will go first and some of them will not go first. And this is again going back to the communication. We need to check with people which processes may be important for the business. And that will give us also the information if we'll potentially hit the target to migrate the processes, or we will miss that target. So this is really important. And remember, when you are working with this migration, don't be afraid to use 5 whys. So try to find where is the problem, where is the source, and of course Occam Razor. So going and trying to simplify stuff and remove all of the unnecessary variables is really important. And finally, if you know that you will go and you will need to do some work, then you will need to think about how to move that stuff. And this is why the migration was in the quotation mark, because it is not a direct process. You need to think how you can translate what is happening in your workflows 2010 or 2013 and move that to the Power Automate. And what is exactly a Power Automate? Power Automate, maybe I will go to the Power Automate page. Yeah. So Power Automate is a cloud-based service which allows you to create the automatization, and it is a sequence of the action which produce a specific outcome. And this is again corresponding to the workflow definition, but the key difference is that the classic SharePoint workflows were associated only with SharePoint, where the Power Automate is not. Right now, if I will go to the connectors, you will see here a huge list of all of the services, applications with which you can work. So this is not only related to the Microsoft stack and not only related to the SharePoint, but you have much more options to do the automatization. Thanks to that, you will be closer to your business process. And I think this is one of the key differences between the classic workflows and the Power Automate. The next bit is that there was only a couple of the pre-built templates in the classic workflows, where in the case of the Power Automate, you have thousands of the templates. So you can not maybe even know anything about the Power Automate, but the process will be already configured and you need to only apply at your own context of your user, and you are ready to go. You just need to start to type in, and for instance, I don't know, something connected with the manager. Yeah, so you can start to get, oh, this is my favorite one, get the push notification when my manager sends me the email. So right now we are working in the way that not always we are next to our desks, and this is quite useful automation to know if manager chase you or not. With that, you just need to select the template, check if you have connections. If not, you will create them and just select create flow. That's it. So easy, so simple. The process is ready. And in this case of this particular process, I think we don't need to do anything else. It is just a matter that it will run and it will wait for the boss emails. Okay, I can see that the demo gods will create some troubles for me today. Okay, let's move forward. Let's leave our manager behind. And the last bit, which is worth to remember about the Power Automate at the very beginning, is that it is a part of the business and the enterprise licenses of the Microsoft 365, but you have the groups of the application, which is called a premium, and they are using the premium connectors. So these are the apps, the services, where you will need to buy a separate license. And the licenses is a separate topic, but it is worth to check if your solutions will need to use potentially the premium connectors or not, because that is affecting strongly how the things are developed. Yeah, and we have this part when we are starting to go into the Power Automate. And now I will go back to the announcement, as there is the next part, which is also very, very useful. I think I already opened that. Yeah. So Microsoft created a really good page with the guidance of the migration. And I will pause here again that the migration from the classic workflows to the Power Automate is not like a drag and drop. You need to rework the whole process. So this is really a great opportunity to sit with the owner, with the admin of the solution, and to think how we can make it better, if this is still relevant, and how it can be transferred or reconfigured. Maybe the end of the discussion will be that we don't need that because we have the XY other tools. So that will make your work a little bit less, because if you will migrate the workflow which had like 100 actions, and then somebody will say, we are not using that, it is waste of your time, and the stress level is getting higher. Okay, if you are thinking about the comparison between of the Workflows 2010 and the Power Automate, if we will scroll down here, there is really good, yeah, it is where everything is starting. So you can compare what you have and what you don't have between the Workflows 2010 and the Power Automate. List of the triggers, list of the actions. And if you will check that, already Power Automate have some more actions than the SharePoint Classic workflows. So in some cases, it is giving you much more options than the classic workflows. But what I'm interested in here is this pain point section. So this is the section where Power Automate potentially lacking in the comparison between Power Automate and the Workflows 2010. First, there is a 30 days limit of the flow execution. So after 30 days, your process will time out and it will stop to work. The Workflows 2010 don't have such a feature. And I didn't mention that so far, but it is strongly connected with the architecture that the Workflows 2010, maybe let's go for a second here again. If I will try to create a new process, you can see two types of the platform. And this is SharePoint 2010 and 2013. It is like that because the SharePoint 2010 workflows were built in and they were part of the SharePoint server. And the SharePoint 2013 was based on the something which was called a workflow manager, which was allowing to scale to some extent, but there was some issues how performant that was, and a lot of people were using SharePoint 2010 because it was so close to the server that there was almost no problems with that platform, except some performance if you hit too many records in the workflow history list. So going here, again, because the Workflows 2010 were so close and they were part of the server, there was no run limit. And in the case of the Power Automate, as it is a cloud service and how the data are stored, there is a 30 days limit. The next part, here there is the information about the HTTP connector. And this is very important because SharePoint 2013 allowed you to use the REST API calls because you could create the dictionary and everything. And the same thing you can do inside of the Power Automate. And I hope I will be able to at least edit one process to show you guys that we have the SharePoint specific APIs action. So if I will start to type in, so we have the specific design action to execute the REST APIs from the SharePoint perspective. And this is free, and this is the part of the standard license. But there is a second action, and this is what is connected with this second pain point, the HTTP request. And as you can see, it is a premium action, or if I would switch, it is a premium trigger. If I would now try to use it, I will be informed that I'm starting the trial of my Power Automate. So I'm shifting to another plan, which is a paid plan. And after 30 days of trial, I will need to potentially buy the license. So I think it is worth to know that before moving forward, that the HTTP connector is the one connected with the premium actions, and it is outside of the SharePoint. But for the SharePoint APIs, if you need to use them, there is the design action, and it is a standard action, so no extra cost associated with it. And I wouldn't say that this is like a pain point. This is just how the platform is working. Then reusable flows. This is something what is connected with the option to associate the workflow to multiple lists. As I was saying to you, there are the reusable workflows. They could be associated with a specific list or the specific content type, and that type of the thinking is not transferred directly to the Power Automate. But there is a way to handle that, and I will try to explain you guys how. The next part is the workflow history storage. So if you are working with the Power Automate, your workflow history is next to your process. So if I will go to any type of the process, okay, for instance, this one, I will see here the run history list. But what is very important, I will see the last 28 days of the execution. So if there is something older, I won't see that. And for some companies, from the auditing perspective, that might be something a little bit challenging, but I will show you how to deal with this pain point. And the last is the impersonation. So in the SharePoint 2010, again, going back to the designer, going back and forth. Yeah, this process. We have the special impersonation step, and that step was executed in the context of the user who published the process. We don't have that thing inside of the Power Automate, but I will show you in a couple of seconds how to work with that. Okay, so these are the key 5 pain points, and I think I will start with the workflow history storage. So as said, there is only 28 days when the workflow history is stored. So to manage that, to mitigate that, I created, and you can also, in my case, I use just a simple way with the SharePoint list. Yeah. So I created a simple list with only a couple of the entries. And it is a little bit like a workflow history list, but not hidden, not customized by the Microsoft, because in the end of the day, the workflow history list is also SharePoint list under similar limitations. So if you bomb that list with over, it was classic limit 5,000 items, you will see some processes starting to slow down. But right now, working with the indexes in the cloud, it is not a big problem. Okay, let's close that part. So I created a really simple. I created a very simple list which is storing some details about the execution of my processes, and thanks to that, I can start to build in my own audit, my own tracking of the workflow execution. I'm using here a group by and the identifier of the process to connect the information that something was created and then approved. So the process I hope I can open it. The process is quite simple. Okay, let's try to edit. Yeah, there is some kind of the problem that I cannot edit the processes. So unfortunately, you guys will see only the successful executions. And I will try to simulate the execution by using the resubmit. So hopefully my process will be run again. And the process is quite simple. First of all, I'm generating the unique identifier of my process. Then I'm creating a new entry in the list, which I showed to you. The next bit is I'm starting the approval. And this is really a huge difference between the classic workflows and the Power Automate. Because if I will go to one of the process, which was a classic task, I would need to go to the task list and then start to approve. Okay, not here. Open this performance specific task. Yeah, so I would need to go to the why stop presenting? I would need then go to the task list. Yeah, and I would see here one task. So to approve anything from the workflow 2010, I would need to go back to the Sharepoint, and then I would have the ability to approve it. When in the comparison to the Power Automate, I can use my email and I can just approve it like this, and the process will move forward. I can also use the approval board, or I can use the mobile app because there is the dedicated application for the Power Automate. And right now, if I will go back to the execution of my process, I will show you guys that after the approval, it is creating the next item in my list. So if I will go back, I should see new entries associated with new attempt of approving the process. And that is one way how you can create your custom history list. But there is another approach, because right now I'm creating a lot of items, and that may be not the wanted way. So the alternative is very similar. I will again go to the next process. And again, I cannot edit that, so I will try to resubmit. The process is very much similar, and this time it is also creating a new entry in the list, but this is the second list, which is working in a little bit different way. Again, the approval was created, and this time I can use the approval board, which is one of the pages which you can see in the Power Automate, and I can also approve the item from here. After a couple of seconds, I should check, and the process should be, yeah, success. We like green. And this time, I'm only updating the item. And I will show you how it is working. And I think it is quite a neat way to do it. Because right now I have only a single item per execution per my flow. And here, if I will go to the view entries, I will see the whole tracking of the process. So this time when the process was submitted, the item was created, then it was approved, and I get the confirmation that the process was completed. So this is one of the ways how you can start to think how you can work and create your own audit list. And that is giving you a lot of flexibility. So if we will now go to the list of the pain points, this one, if you need, is not a problem. The next one, impersonation. This is really how the Power Automate is working, and you can deal with that and you can work with that also. So I will close part of these pages. I don't need them so much. If I would go to the create page, there is a couple of ways how the Power Automate process can be triggered. The first one is automated. So when the item is created or modified, this is this type of the flows, if I will compare that with the Sharepoint Classic, and the instant is the manual trigger. And automated is running in the context of the user who prepared that process, where instant is run in the context of the user who is really executing manually, triggering the process. But you can control that. If I will go here, maybe I will not run that because I don't have a lot of time. There is a section called run only users. If you will go here, you have the option that the user is providing the connection. So in the context of the user, all of the actions connected with the Sharepoint will be executed for that user. But if you use the connection of the person who is owner of that flow, your user who is executing the process don't need to have the connection to Sharepoint. And of course, that is not exactly impersonation, that I'm not executing only one or two steps from the process, but it is changing the context of the user for a specific service. So for instance, I can use, I don't know, Outlook, and the user don't need to have the Outlook, and the Outlook actions will be executed from the context of a person who configured that flow, but the Sharepoint actions will be in the context of the user who is executing that process. And maybe I will manage to do that and show you that as the example, where we have that 2020, I think it was. Yeah. So here you can see the list of the modified by, and every time when I will be using the instant flow, which by the way can be triggered from here, and it is a little bit like this Sharepoint Classic Workflows custom form, where you are asking users to provide the input. And whenever I will use this process in this way, it will be executed in the context of the user who is starting, who is the initiator. So it is worth to know. The next bit connected with the impersonation is that you can use the HTTP connector, and that is why one of the key reasons why this connector is in this list, because the HTTP connector will work in the context of the user who configured that. So this is another way how you can change the context of the users. The next bit, how you can change and how you can control the context of the user, is to use the solutions and the child flows, because in the Power Automate you can create solutions, and you can have a combination of the parent, child, caller, doer, master, slave, whatever you want to do it, the combination of the couple of the workflows, and the one workflow is calling another workflow by using the call child flow action. And this is only possible if you have the flows connected inside of the solution. But this is also giving you the ability to change the context, in some sense to impersonate the users. In that sense, everything depends on the use case. So that pain point is only how you are approaching some elements of the configuration. The same goes with the reusable flows. If you would, for instance, use the variables to point the process to the specific site URL and the list GUID, you can create a beginning of the reusable process. Combining that with the solution and the child parent execution, you can create the reusable flows if you need. Okay, and let's go back to the last bit, because I am feeling that I don't have a lot of time. Okay, so we know the workflow history, the impersonation, reusable flows, more or less. This is again the relation between the parent and child, that we can disconnect them from the context of the service and create one master process which will do all of the actions, and have a bunch of the smaller ones which are only calling the master to do the work. HTTP connector, we are all set and we are all good. For the 30 days run limit, there are also the options how you can deal with that, but this would require the extra time. And I'm trying to work with the post how to overcome that, but the general idea is that for the approvals, the approval after 30 days will not finish. It will be still running. It is stored inside of the common data service of your environment. So I'm now hardcore techie, but you have the specific entity and you can call that entity and check if the approval finished or not. So even if your process is timeout, you can still find the approval and make the process run a little bit longer. Yay. Okay, so fast forward to the summary. We went through these pain points. I hope this gives you a little bit of the context of how much work needs to be done and what you need to do. Of course, there are the other things which are worth for the consideration. The permissions are a little bit tricky, but there are the new actions to grant the permissions. You can use the shareable links. That is also very useful. For the document sets, I know only the method with this really listdata.svc service. So it is quite old service. And I think for the, if you need to work with the document sets, you should think about the Azure Functions Logic apps to execute some scripts connected with the CSOM, where in the CSOM you can still deal and work with the document sets. So document sets may be a little bit tricky in the Power Automate. And the last bit is the declaration and undeclaration of the records. If somebody is still using, I think, except the custom code, there is no other way to go around this. Okay, so at the very end of this session, I would like to leave you with the thought that please keep calm and don't panic. If you remember about the communication at the very beginning of your project, if you remember about the communication when you are running the project, if you are speaking with people and business, most likely you will succeed and your company will really benefit from this transformation. A little bit forceful, but they will benefit from your transformation as the Power Automate, the Power Platform, opens a lot of doors to make your life easier. And in the end of the day, if you are leading that, except the headache, maybe losing your hairs like I did, you'll be the hero of your company. So really, there is potentially a lot of work, but it is all doable. And remember to check and communicate with the users and community, because community can help you a lot. And maybe as a part of the closure of this session, before jumping to the thank you section, I will just share with you guys one more bit. When I was preparing for this session, I found this GitHub repo. So this is some kind of the Sharepoint workflow converter. And I don't know how it is working. I didn't have enough time to test it, but potentially it is reading your XML definition of the process and then transforming that to the Power Automate. Of course, potentially it can break something, but maybe that will help you and speed up your work. So if you are running out of the time, maybe this is something that you should check. Okay, with that said, please remember that you can win the prizes. You just need to go to the virtual bar. You can win the Bonner swag, and you can also check out the all access pass from the Collab 365. And that's it. Thank you very much. Hope it was a useful session. And please feel free to check me on the social media. I will gladly chat with you.